but they're in there.
Okay, great. All right, you want to walk in together? Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Hi. Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Kimberly Yee, and I'm the State Treasurer of Arizona. How is your day going today? So early on, my parents taught me the value of savings. And I think you see that in a lot of Asian American cultures where, saving is an important concept, and sometimes they save and not even spend. But I have intentionally and purposefully visited diverse communities where there are different cultural backgrounds that we have seen mistrust in financial institutions, for instance, where families that have come from somewhere else don't trust the banking system. So they hold on to their funds and they don't bank that. To save that money a little bit, it teaches you early on when you're young, like you are today, that even when you're an adult, don't forget, put some money aside. And so coming in as the state treasurer as a minority woman, they see that there is trust there, that I can share the message that if you move money aside and you start saving, it will collect interest. That's more money for you and your family. And so I really have seen a great dialogue, new engagement in these diverse communities that has never been seen before.
Well, it's been a long time since I've been through this album. Reminds me of the many things that we used to do when we were new here in Arizona. And as the children were born and growing up, and always tried to record those special times.
Yeah, you always had a camera ready to go. My father was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the heart of the business district, and they ran a hand laundry business back in the 1930s.
In the early days, around the start of the 20th century, the people who migrated from China, they were relegated to more menial type of work. Most of them, of course, if not all of them, had very little means to begin with. And so my father came back on his own to the United States, and at some point he was able to open his own little business.
My grandfather opened this little shop, and the technologies were not like they are today. So my father would work in this little store every morning, every night. And as a 9-year-old little boy, he had enough. And so he shared with my grandfather, his father, I don't want to do this my whole life. And my grandfather simply said to him, you don't have to. This is Golden Mountain, the land of prosperity where you can be nothing and make yourself anything you want in this great country. But when my grandparents retired, they came and lived in Arizona with us. And we built a little side of our house where they would live. And one of the earliest childhood memories that I have with my grandparents living with us is the Republican National Convention. And we faithfully watched that convention every 4 years. In fact, my grandfather would be so excited to watch this convention that he would pull out our family camera and take photos of the convention as the days went on. And we still have those wonderful family photos in our photo albums today. He was always up to speed on what was happening nationally. He knew what was happening in politics. And I think through osmosis and being raised in a family where the current news of the day was important and always voting and being engaged in government, that really allowed me to grow up in an environment where I could appreciate those who were our leaders and those who ran our government. "15 years ago, I would walk through the doors of the Arizona Treasury as an employee. I was a staff member of a former Arizona State Treasurer. And today I walk in as the treasurer of Arizona, an elected statewide office holder. And really, it's certainly an honor and a joy to serve in this position. And not only be in the office I used to work in, but now to run the office as its chief executive officer. This position has been a job I've trained for many, many years, and I'm truly honored to serve in it.
Hi, Treasurer.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just some calendar.
Okay.
Things to go through. You'll need to leave at 10:20 to get to the Rob Conyer show.
Okay.
You'll talk about financial literacy, savings.
Great.
Then after that, you go to Boys and Girls Club,
Okay.
and we do an AZ 529
Okay.
presentation there. The bags are all ready with the school
Oh, good.
supplies.
How many kids are we going to see today?
I think they've prepared about 100 bags.
Okay. Well, I think we
Okay.
are ready to start our day and start with the leaders meeting in the conference room.
Yes,
Excellent.
they're ready.
Thank you.
Okay.
As the state treasurer, we want to make sure all of our divisions that are working for the taxpayers get to see each other every day and make sure that we are talking about what our projects are. And so these morning meetings, these leaders meetings, allow us to engage together at a leadership level, and then all of that communication goes to each employee in the office. Any new issues on the bill, the federal bill, the inflationary bill?
It hasn't affected our debt instruments, but it has affected equities. We're in a very good position. Probably the best we've been in decades.
Excellent. Great news.
They should be updated.
It's always great to go back on the show with Retire Right with Reverse Rob and talk about money. And we enjoy our conversations because not only are they tips for our average families, but also we talk about the economy and where we are and what we foresee.
Last time you were on the show, we spoke about, or you've been a champion for financial education in Arizona over the last decade. Can you tell our audience a little bit about the efforts you've taken around financial literacy?
So we have a number of, families who are on government subsidies
Right.
and welfare programs. We don't want them to be in a long-standing situation like that. We want them to get off of the rolls of the government and be self-sustaining. And so I took a look at a bill and we proposed it. It passed. It's now state law that requires our Department of Economic Security that hands out those government subsidies to allow for those families to also take financial education as one of their workforce requirements.
That's so great.
And that, again, it allows for families to be self-sustaining and get them prepared on how to manage their money.
Awesome. You're doing great work. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so
great
much,
to see
Rob.
you.
Good to be
Thank
here.
Thank you. You've listened to the Retire Right with Reverse Rob show. My special guest, Treasurer Kimberly Yee.
When I was a high school senior, I was a journalist and I was on the school paper. And not only was I a reporter, but I was also the editorial cartoonist. And while I was in government class in high school, I was learning about First Amendment free press rights. Yet in my journalism class, I wasn't able to exercise those First Amendment rights because we were censored. And in that experience, I happened to raise it with a state senator who was representing my legislative district, and he said, we're going to do something about this. And so he decided to run a bill in the state Senate and asked me to testify on that bill. And as a senior in high school, I had never been to the state capitol before, much less sit in a hearing of the state Senate Education Committee. And the bill would have allowed for student journalists with a teacher advisor to be able to have those First Amendment free press rights. I was able to testify and share my story. But it also allowed me to see that this is the people's government. Bills become laws because of the people. And to have that positive experience early on, it allowed me to really look at political science as a major going into college.
I've known Kimberly for longer than I think we both want to admit. I originally met her when I was first elected to the Senate, and she was a staffer. And we became friends while she was working there, and then she went off to the Governor Schwarzenegger administration in California. And during that meantime, I ended up becoming the state treasurer of Arizona. I got the rumor that she was coming back to Arizona, and I got her on the phone and said, would you come work for me?
I served as his communications director as well as his legislative liaison to the legislature. In that role, I was able to take a look at how we manage our funds and making sure we have that simple principle of never spend more than you make.
If your job is to make sure that the money only goes to things that it should go to, if somebody's out there trying to do something or not, they get very upset. And I came to blows back in my time against the sitting governor. We said, hey, there's a recession coming, turned out to be the Great Recession, and the state was on a track to run out of money for the first time since the Great Depression if we didn't change. And sometimes it takes a lot of intestinal fortitude, a lot of spine, a lot of strength to tell a governor no, or tell the legislature no, you can't actually do this.
Kimberly, as an Asian American, is the first woman to be elected to the Arizona legislature. Initially, she was in the House of Representatives, followed by being elected to the Arizona Senate, in which she became the first Asian majority leader.
I think one of the great things about Kimberly is you see Kimberly and you see somebody who's very successful because of their abilities. During my battle with my governor when we went through the Great Recession, and Kimberly was literally on the front line. She was answering all those questions and setting up a lot of those discussions that then I would have as treasurer. And so she demonstrated not only the ability to have that strength and that internal ability to not only comprehend the problem, but explain it in ways that the average person can understand. So it's not just enough to know what's right. Being able to explain it so other people can support you is just as important.
When I ran for the Arizona Senate Majority Leader position, I became the second woman to serve in this position since U.S. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor served in that position 44 years earlier in 1973. And today, with your help, I've become the first Chinese American Republican woman to hold a major statewide office in the entire country. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for making Arizona's history.
Well, it's really great as a former treasurer to see someone that I worked with. The team that I built is still there, and not only still there, but Kimberly Yee, who was one of the people I really wanted on my team, has now the chair. She's in my old seat and running the show. That's really exciting. Gives me a lot of pride.
Hi.
My name's Brittany.
Hi, Brittany.
Nice
Thanks
to meet
for
you.
having me.
Of course, welcome. I'd love to show you a room.
Okay, sounds great. It's amazing to see different areas of the state and how they react to money management. And we visit with little kids as early as kindergarten. We want to make sure that money management and saving and these concepts is fun. George liked the suggestion so much that he was only a little sorry to put the train back down. So what does he have to do for a little while before he gets that train? He's going to have to earn $5. Do you guys know what you want to be when you grow up? Let's get some examples. What do you want to be when you grow up? A basketball player, just like my boys. How about you? A cop. You want to be a police officer. Awesome. You might have to go to school or a university or a community college or workforce development, and you're going to need some money to set aside and save for that, right? So your parents are going to get some information in some bags that you're going to get today that helps them start thinking about saving for your education. Is that awesome? Thank you. Good luck in school. There you go. Thank you for being a good listener. Here you go. There you go. Have a good year. I was the first state treasurer in Arizona's history to visit all 15 Arizona counties in my first year in office, and I continue that effort. So really meeting face-to-face with our local government officials, having and establishing those key relationships has grown our investments in local government. We know that you are locally elected and you know what's closest
Correct.
to the people.
Correct.
And so all of that from a relationship building standpoint, we will help you along the way. We have seen assets under management go up in our local government pools by 75.4%. And that is just in 3.5 years of my administration. In 3.5 years is really extraordinary, so.
Well, we appreciate that. Trust me on that, because we can use the people here in Goodyear love the amenities, and that's what we're working for, because it's all about improving the life
Yes.
and, of our citizens out here and improving their quality of life. But no, this has
great.
been very educational. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. In 2016, I was a state senator serving my district, that very district I lived in when I was a little girl, and I got a call from the Republican National Convention inviting me to be a speaker on the opening day to share my American dream story. And it certainly took me back to the place where I would be sitting next to my grandfather. And back when I was a young girl, I didn't fully understand the content of those speeches, but I understood it to be a celebration. And watching the red, white, and blue balloons come down from the ceiling, I knew it was a celebration of freedom and opportunity and really celebrating that American dream. So, to be invited as a speaker on the stage on the other side of the television, truly it was an honor to receive that invitation. And as I received the details of where I would be, and the convention would be in Cleveland, Ohio, the call that came next was that I only would have one ticket for a guest. And coming from a family as large as mine, that was a difficult call to get. So my husband, without any hesitation, said, "You have to bring your father." This is the 9-year-old boy who is on his knees sorting laundry in that little hand laundry business. And I was honored to be escorted to the stage by my father on that special day.
Well, I do remember the convention in Cleveland, and I was so proud that I was able to not just accompany Kimberly to the convention, but also be inspired by the fact that she represented our family. And right before she went up to the podium to give her presentation, I said to her, "Grandpa would be so very proud of you if he were here today."
I never would have imagined that I would be on the other side of the television sharing my American dream story to the entire country. And really it was a moment and a story that I would never have guessed I would have shared, but a dream come true for sure. The American dream story doesn't end today. It's something that I value, that I am giving to my young children. And that is something that we need to share with so many other families across this great country. The American dream is just beginning. And this is the story of someone who comes from a very humble family, starting from nothing.
She has opened up doors for even others that aspire to get into government work. And in fact, people have told her that she has been an inspiration to them simply by virtue that she's earned elective office here in the state of Arizona.
Who would have thought that young senior in high school who was testifying behind the podium about a piece of legislation would then serve on the other side of the podium as a state senator representing that very same district that I grew up in and being the chairwoman of the Senate Education Committee on the other side of the dais? And who would have thought 15 years ago when I was walking into the doors of the Arizona State Treasury as a staff member, working for a former statewide elected official, to be 15 years later elected the State Treasurer of Arizona? So these stories really are the pathway of what I have learned and been trained for, but continuing on with that path and serving the people of Arizona. It's truly a blessing. It's an honor. It's a public service.